Hey guys, GMO here, and today we're going to be looking at the best even decks for all classes. And yeah guys, this will be a pretty long video, so there will be timestamps down in the description along with some deck codes. And if you guys do enjoy this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. It'll help me out a lot. Thanks. Alright guys, so these are the decks that we're going to be looking at. I'll be honest, most of these are troll decks, and I love me some troll decks, so yeah, let's get into it. Alright guys, so up first we do have the Even Druid. Super fun deck, super aggressive, just how I like it. So, this deck actually did not get that many cards from the new expansion. It got the Dreamway Guardians, and that's about it. But to me, that's good enough because it acts like tokens, two minions, to attack 4 health. It's not bad for a 2-drop. So yeah, this deck pretty much plays super aggressive. You gotta go in, you coin out your 2-drop. You go balls. Alright, so then play your 2-drop again, right? So yeah, you really just keep buffing up your dudes, keep going to the face. You do have a lot of you do want to go wide because then you do have buffs such as Branching Path, the Torrent guy, and then you have Power of the Wild, right? Fandral, major key. That boy puts in a lot of work. Savage Combatant is out there just pumping out 3 damage hero powers for 1 mana, which is insane. And you also have the Ultimate Infestation, which in their late game that's the best thing ever. If you get the Ultimate Infestation, normally you have enough power from that to just win the game. So if your hand looks kind of dry, Mire Keeper, you want to ramp up with that so you can go into your Ultimate Infestation as fast as you can. And yeah, the only problem that I have with this deck is the decks that run big taunts like Big Priest and Big Warlock. So you do want to run a Spellbreaker, maybe 2 of them. I kind of recommend them, and I think the other card's called the Shield Breaker. But yeah, let's get into the tech cards actually. Okay guys, so here are tech cards. So you want to use these tech cards if you don't have a certain legendary, or you want to switch up your game to counter either control or aggro, right? So let's get started with the Starfire, right? This boy does draw a little bit. He's like a weak Ultimate Infestation, I like to think of him. Just downgrade that boy. He does do 5 damage to face, so if you need to push, which a lot of times you will, you just need to get through a taunt. Just skip that taunt and just hit him on the face. Tending Torrent, you could run 2 of them instead of 1. It does help you out in the late game, but it could also backfire on you. It might not be that great. You have to test it out yourself to see if you like it. Shell Shifter, I actually really recommend it if you're going against a lot of aggro. For example, I really like it. Okay, Lich King, just an insane card. Pushes against control, against aggro. But if you need that late game, but I want to hit the ground running, so it might be too slow for me. And Medivh, great dude. Combos with Ultimate Infestation and some other big spells you do run. But yeah, let's get on the next one. Alright guys, up next we do have the Even Hunter, which is like a weak variation of Big Hunter, but it does still have some things going on for it, right? You have the Sting Whittle Sniper, which hits anybody, so it's like an odd even mage hero power. And then you also have the Garrison Commander, which, I mean, it hits twice, that's great. And if you keep hitting him in the face, you have the Frost Giant that comes out, start swinging. Hopefully you can do that in a tempo turn, combine it with Katharina or whatever you're combining it with, and just swing the board from there. So you do have some key cards, like Houndmaster Shaw is not all that bad. He normally wins the game if he stays on board. You have the Mad Scientist, which puts in mad work. You also do run the Rexar, which will single-handedly win you the matches against control. So we also do run the Mossy Horror. I almost wanted to run 2 of these because there's so much aggros and it just works so well. You do have the Savannas, so you can get off the Katharina. The Charged Devil Swords, which you also want to get off the Katharina. And you have the Katharina herself, right? She's basically the major key of this deck. She comes out with the big beast. And on top of all that, you do have N'Zoth if you have that end game push. So against control, this deck will, most of the time against any type of control, like a control warrior, it will just destroy it, right? And you do run 1 silence with the Spellbreaker. You could run 2. I kind of recommend 2 in the meta, but I did face a lot of aggro, so it did help me back a little bit. So it's whatever you guys see the most, right? So with that being said, let's get into some tech cards. Okay guys, so I have 4 tech card suggestions here. So up first we do have Mark Shot, which is a great removal, helps you control the board until your late game swings, and it does discover a spell, which it could be an out card, for example, which helps you out curving, or I mean just to clear the board, right? Okay, then we have another Mossy Horror, which it does pretty well against Paladin, any aggro token decks. Then you have Revenge of the Wild, which is very interesting. If you combo that against some type of control, or like if you're doing some effective trades, it's very strong in that sense because you could also get your charged Double-Saurus. And then it's very greedy though. I don't really recommend it that much. And then you also have the Wing Blast. The Wing Blast is great if you find yourself that you need to remove more threats off the board. But yeah, guys, let's get on the next one. Alright guys, up next we do have the Even Mage. So this deck right here is probably the trolliest deck of this whole video. It's also the most fun. Not as reliable always, but whenever you do hit the right stuff going, everything combines well. This deck is just nasty. So you can do all types of stuff. I got the Ice Walker, so he freezes anything, right? The Frost Giant, it complements it, right? It's a big dude. Koldara Drake, which is super fun to play. If it stays on the board with the Ice Walk, you keep freezing everything. You will see the video on the screen. That's what happened to this poor dude. Fallen Hero, it's very strong with your hero power as well. So this deck is just super trolly. Garrison Commander is super good in here. Gets you 2. Spirit of the Dragonhawk is a Rasakan Rumble card, but it does help you clear out with your hero power, which is very good. So if you keep freezing everything and you just keep freezing things over and over, your Dalaran Aspirant will go off, and you'll just end up with massive amount of spell power. I think I end up with like 4 in this video that you guys are watching. There's also the Echo of Medivh, keeps you going. Fireballs, they hit hard. You also have the Polymorphs for those big taunts. Tournament Medic, you could run 2 if you're going against a lot of aggro. Against Paladin is actually really good. Against Hunter is really good. It trades. And it also keeps healing your phase. Blizzard slows down the game completely. Sets up for maybe your Koldara Drake can live by then. Kamado Drake, also if you leave that thing alone, it's gonna do stuff, right? Lich King, overpowered. I don't need to say it. So yeah, if you let this deck do what it wants to do, if you give it like 2 turns that you don't do anything too effective in the board, you're just gonna get destroyed no matter what deck you are. But no one's gonna do that. So getting dubs with this deck is super hard. But yeah, boys, let's go into the tech choices. Alright guys, so for tech cards, we do have 4 cards here. So starting off with the Meteor, if you really need to keep control of the board even more than before, you can do 15 to 1 and 3 to others, right? So it does help you remove the big stuff, right? You also have the Tournament Medic, if you want to add 2 of them. If you're going up against a lot of aggro, super trolly. You have to test it out yourself. It's a hit or miss, right? A Luneth, you get this if you want to play this deck more like Tempo. If you do want to play more like Tempo, it's just an auto include. Or against Control, then I mean it does provide the tools you need to finish off the job. And another Polymorph if you were struggling to finish off your opponent, right? Or you could, yeah, let's get on the next one. Alright guys, up next we do have the Even Paladin here. So this deck is not as good as it once was, back when it had that 4 mana card that brings out 2 mana cards, which was extremely broken. I don't even know the name of that card anymore. I think it's 5 mana now. So yeah, this deck is actually just go wide, and you do have a couple synergies, not as much as Ad Paladin. And I did try to play this deck a lot. I played it plenty of times. I played it in ranked. I played it everywhere. I customized it a lot, but I never found it to be good. But yeah, this deck also does have some things going for it. So, for example, you do have the Knife Juggler, pump out a lot of small drops. You have the Rebuke, which is great against any control. You also have the Keeper of Alden, which will buff up your 1/1s or nerf the other guys. You get access to Consecration, which is very helpful. And then the best card of this deck probably will be the Sunkeeper Terran. That card's just insane, right? All in all, this deck is not half bad, but it doesn't. It's like a C minus tier or even less, right? It's very hard to win with this deck, but if you guys can make it work, that'd be great. I do have the Light Infused Stegodon in here because it's a possibility if you do want to run that. And I also have some more tech cards right here, so let's take a look. Alright guys, so here we have the Even Paladin tech cards. So at first we do have the Justice card. I really didn't want to put this in there, but turns you into an odd hero power, which is good enough. Against control, this is pretty strong. Epic. So then Urgent Last is really good against aggro, for example. Then you have the Spike Reach Steed, which I really like, but I kind of like hitting the ground running a little bit more, so it might be a little bit too heavy for me, so that's why I cut it out, but you guys can put it in if you like. Tyrion, extremely good against control. He'll just take the game from there. Light Infused Stegodon, I mean, he's good, but I felt like he didn't really put enough in the deck. But you could put him in, yeah, and along with some more cards that make 1/1s, right? If you do want to synergize that way. And Consecration, if you're having trouble with aggro, just put one more of those. So yeah, let's go on the next one, boys. Alright guys, up next we do have the Even Priest. So this right here is my little baby. I created this boy and I've been running with this boy since forever. He hasn't really got any new cards, but I still love this boy. But yeah, it's like a tempo list, so most people don't know what the hell you're doing with this. So just play out your 2 mana cost, coin out the 1-drop if you need to. With a lot of these aggro decks, you will need to constantly do that, and then synergize with that. So I mean, for example, going over the cards, you have the Aconite Phantasm. I don't know. It does 2 damage with your hero power, which is great for 1 mana. Then you have the Blood Mage if you do want to buff up your spell power. Bone Guard gets beefier every time you do your thing, so you can make a trade, heal, and gain 1 more health. Mind Blast helps you reach for that lethal. Radiant Elemental actually helps your spells go 1 less, so they turn into odd cards. So that helps your curve out. Sense, however you say that, it helps you keep going. So like if you have a Spawn of Shadows, you get it back to your hand, and then you have a lot more damage for the next turn. So you have more stuff to burst them with. It's kind of like getting another fireball to your hand. Is how I think about it. Shadow Ascendant, it can be really good if it's unchecked. It just go ham. It's just complete tempo right there, complete tempo swing. Shadow Visions, you guys know all about that. Cards are broken. Shadow Boxer, that's an interesting card. I almost cut it out because it doesn't quite do enough just doing 1 damage to anything whenever you heal. Squashling, really powerful, especially in the late game. If you do want to burst down with it, it's very strong. Alkaline Soul Priest, it's a good body. It stays on board, and I mean, it just makes your hero power OP as long as it's on the board. Holy Champion gets big, juicy. Master Spell, get through those taunt. If you guys want, you can run 2 of those. I mean, cut out, I don't know, maybe Spawn of Shadows. And the Holy Fire helps you reach. It's not the best card in here, but I mean, it's like the Leroy Jenkins, I like to think about it. So let's get on the tech cards. Alright guys, so for a tech card, we have 4 cards that actually go insanely well in this deck, so you can freely swap them out depending on the playstyle you like. So starting off with the Circle of Healing, insanely good. It clears the board. I mean, the only reason why I don't run it because I like to go ham, just balls to the wall, just hit the face. Then you have the Mana Geode, which is really good if you want to make trades on the early game against the small little minions or like little paladin dudes. So then you have the Life Drinker. This dude can do a little bit of damage to him, and it does have heal synergy. So if you do heal yourself and you have a card that gets buffed while you heal, or does 1 damage to something when you heal, it does give you that. And 3 damage to the face is not half bad for a 3/3 body. It creates some pressure. Henge Clan Shakes Quill. I mean, I like this guy, but it's up to your playstyle because I do have a lot of 4-drops and I don't like to get too clogged up. But it's a great inclusion especially if it dies and then you turn that into damage. That's a lot of tempo right there. You got a 4, 7, and 5 damage to face. That's great. So yeah, but the downside if it doesn't, it does heal your mans, so it's harder to kill. So let's go on to the next one. Alright guys, so next up we do have the Even Row here. This is one of my favorite decks to run actually. I play this quite often. I do play it in Legends sometimes, and it actually wins a lot. I think it's fairly underrated. So we do have 2 deck lists here. So we have the Oil Rogue, and we got the Burglar Rogue, which is like it just came out with the Rise of Shadows expansion pretty much. So with the Oil Rogue, once again, you want to hit the ground running with most of these even decks. You do want to do that, so you do want a coin. You do run the counterfeit coin to get that turn out. So this deck list right here is actually way more aggressive than the Burglar Rogue. The Burglar Rogue is focused more around trading minions and making efficient trades and searching for what you could find, right? So key cards for the Oil Rogue. So Shark Fin is insane. Chips Cannon is insane. One card that I do run in here that I don't run in the other one, it's the Strider. This guy's great. He keeps the pressure up. We also do run the Elven Minstrel. We do run one copy of Curse Castaway instead of in the other deck we don't run that because it does give you a combo card, and I think Eviscerate is one of those cards that I switched out. So that does draw you an Eviscerate, for example. And the big daddy of the deck, the Captain Hooktusk, that thing is insanely powerful, man. Especially if it gets your 6-drop, your 4-drop. That thing is just dirty, man. And then taking a look at the Burglar Rogue, pretty much the same thing. Aggressive, hit the ground running, like I said. But you do have the Underbelly Fence. You have the Peddler. Is that what it's called? The Undercity Huckster. I mean, I'm confusing it with the Warlock card. You also do run the Hench Clan Burglar, which is a pretty good pirate. And the Vendetta, which helps you make very efficient trades. So, all in all, it's a pretty good deck. Once again, you have the Captain Hooktusk. It's probably a little bit weaker on this deck than the other one because the minions are a little bit weaker because you remove the Curse Castaway. But I mean, it's still very strong card regardless. It just nerves it a little bit. So yeah, guys, let's look at the tech cards. Alright, guys, so for the Rogue tech cards, so we got 4 cards. So starting off with the Mistral. If you are missing some card draw, I mean, you can run this. It does lose a lot of tempo because it's a 4-mana 3/2. That's why I only run 1. But if you do need the card draw, if you find yourself running out, that's your mans right there. Betrayal, if you're going up against a lot of aggro, it can actually swing the board well. I mean, it costs 2 mana. Okay, then you have the Curse Castaway. I did remove 1 copy of one deck, and one of them doesn't even run it. So, once again, if you do want to run that, buff up your Hooktusk, or I mean, get some more draw, or just a slightly beefier dude for 6 mana. Then you have the Tomb Pillager, which actually is not half bad of a card. It gives you a point, which helps you in the combos, and it also helps your curve out, right? So overall, it's a pretty powerful card. 4 mana, 5/4. So yeah, dudes, let's get on the next one. Alright, guys, so up next we do have the Even Shaman here. You guys know this deck. This deck, ever since Gan and Baku has came out, this deck has been wrecking the meta. Your 1 mana totem is actually pretty decent, especially with the powerful synergies you do have with this deck. So yeah, but I do have 2 decks in here. I have the traditional Even Shaman. That's like one of the best decks in the game. And I put a little twist and put the Even Fountain Shaman right here. Super fun deck. Nowhere nearly as good as the other deck, but you do get to run the Fountain and Alikure and the Corpse Taker. So also, in addition to that, I do get to run the Rockbiter. So, I mean, so you do run Wind Fury minions, so that just go ham, you know. So the cards I did cut out for this Fountain Shaman would be, I cut out 1 Direwolf, I cut out a Crackle, and I cut out 2 Galactic Crawlers, which I found on the meta to not be that necessary anyways. The only thing is that you do lose a 2-drop, so it does lose your consistency early game. That's the only downside, but your late game is so much stronger, right? Oh, and I also cut out the Lich King. But yeah, overall, this Fountain Shaman is not a bad deck if you want to put a twist onto it. It's not half bad either. I mean, it's not the best, but not the worst, right? So let's look at some tech cards, boy. Alright, so we do have 5 cards here, and starting off with the Wind Speaker, right? I mean, if you do run this, you might as well get another second copy of Wind Fury and just go for the Omega Wind Fury just for the lulz. I tried this. It didn't quite make the cut, but I mean, it's decent. It's there if you do want to take it. If you don't have a certain legendary you like, you can sub this out for it. Then you have Ragnaros, which is really strong against other control decks. You do have the Hex, which I almost recommend running it, but the Devolve almost does the same thing. So get through the big priests, get through the warlocks, you know. The Swirling Symptomatic can make a lot of trouble early on. So It's not a bad card. I would run it, but it's a little too flimsy. It might make a cut on the Wind Fury deck just because you're missing some 2-drops. And then the Wind Fury, like I said, I mean, if you want to go balls deep, go for it. So, yeah, boys. Alright, guys, up next, we do have the Even Warlock here. So, this deck is beautiful. It just pieces together greatly. I mean, there's not much room for tech cards. I did try, but you'll see in a second. So this deck is, it almost feels like it plays itself, right? Like you just look at your hand, hero power a lot, and then you almost have a play that's like the most optimal, right? Like a 4 mana 8/8 for example, and all your plays are just great. I mean, and if they don't have silences or stuff like that, then they're pretty screwed. The big thing I think you need to keep in mind with this deck is you do need to know when to stop hero powering, I feel, because this deck does have limited healing, so you do have to keep that in mind. Yeah, this deck has such limited healing that we do run this 2 mana cheaty ankle biter. So I mean, I didn't put this in the deck. Every deck that I do see online that's like the best Even Warlock is running this, so I just didn't even doubt it. I'm just like, okay, that's it. So I put that boy in, and he actually does well, even though on the surface level he just looks like, what the hell is he doing in there? But he's actually pretty decent. So yeah, let's look at some tech cards. Alright, so we do have 4 tech cards in here. I mean, they help you out depending on whatever you're having trouble with. So starting off with the Shroom Brewer, he's a weak minion, but since your health is so limited, it might be worth running a second copy just to get that other 4 health. And then you do have the Doomsayer if you're having trouble with a lot of aggro. Running a single copy, 2 copies of that is insanely good to hold them off. Siphon Soul, it does remove something and it does heal you a tiny bit, which is great when you have limited healing, but I find it too slow. It does way too little, but I mean, if that's your cup of tea, go for it. And the Mojo Master, this guy's insane against control. I mean, if you're having trouble against control, I was even thinking about just putting this card on the core of its deck because it's insanely good, right? It just kind of sucks against aggro. So yeah, on to the next one, boys. Alright guys, up next we do have the Even Warrior. So this will be the last deck for this video. So this deck is pretty much a troll deck. It's like a weaker version of the Recruit Warrior, but it does have one thing going for it, and that is that you do get to armor up constantly, and there's this one card, Stoated Golem. So this thing gets synergy from you having armor, and it's only 6 mana, and it's like, I believe it's a 6/9, so it's just a big boy on the board, so they had to get through that. So even if you cannot attack with him, that boy just stalls the game out for a lot. The other upside this deck it does have by running Even is that you do get to armor up like a lot, and you use more weapons, right? So you'll use your Death Bite, you use your Blood Razor, and you can turn 5, you can armor up, Blood Razor armor. So Dead Man's Hands, you really use this on the late game against control whenever you're pretty much out of resources. You want to shuffle all the minions that you have in your hand back in the deck. Then the deck also runs a lot of removal, the Warpath, the Sleep with the Fishes, the weapon. Gather Your Party is basically a card that makes this deck. Recruit for 6 mana is like that Priest card, but it's not a copy, so it's a little bit, but it is still the big body. So you do have that. Also have Unidentified Shield, which will most of the time just give you armor and provide 5 damage, so you could keep removing stuff. After that, you just have big dudes on the board. You have the Woe Cleaver to get them out easier. You have the Dimensional Reaper, the Boom Reaver, the Ashurash. And if you recruit and you get the Archmage Vargoth right here, it does recruit again, for example. Or you can go Archmage if it stays on the board and go Dimensional Reaper, for example. So yeah, this deck is pretty fun to play. It's not as bad as you might initially think. But yeah, let's look at some tech cards. Alright guys, so for the tech cards, we do have 4 cards here. So the top ones are against aggro. So if you're still having too much trouble against the aggro, Death Bite will just destroy these kids. Cleave will just clear out 2 things. I mean it's very unreliable, so only put this in if you really need it. Then you have the Ragnaros, which will help you push against control decks. And another deck, Dead Man's Hand, which helps you go infinite. And it does shuffle a lot of things. Even if you don't go infinite, it still gives you a lot of power to push through control. So yeah, boys, that's it for the video. So yeah, guys, that'll be it for the video, and thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate all you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next time.